Enough of the BS. Let's get right to it. So I gotta admit, after my last 308 PSA experience, I was a little hesitant to buy this 223 pistol AR. But with the sales that they were running during the 4th of July sale, $220 shipped for the lower, especially with a SBA3 adjustable brace, and a 223 10.5 inch 1-in-7 twist upper for $260 shipped, $480 total. After my FFL, $25, $505 out the door. It was hard to pass up. And I even got the Strike-Fire 2 Vortex Red Dot shipped with 10 PMags for $189. So I'm not exactly sure how PSA is doing this, but I'm sure they're doing it with quantity over quality of purchases. But regardless, it's hard to pass up PSA's deals. So I transferred over the M-Lock bipod adapter from the old 308 video to this pistol so I could attach a bipod. Put on the Vortex Strike-Fire 2 along with two Gen 2 Magpul backup iron sights. And so far, the fit and function is amazing. One thing I did notice right out of the gate in comparison to the PSA 308 review I did previously is the finish on the lower along with the handguard exactly matches, which is nice. I hope you remember watching my 308 PSA review, or if you want to go back and watch it if you haven't watched it yet. But my lower had a very dull finish where the handrail had a very bright black finish. Obviously it doesn't affect performance, but in terms of how the rifle, or in this case the pistol, appears, it does complement the lower and upper nicely. So the 10.5 inch upper comes with the handrail and this bird cage, and so far the upper to lower fit and finish is, in my opinion, especially for $480, is top notch. There's very little wiggle between the upper and lower receiver. As for the bolt and the bolt carrier group, everything looks pretty standardized. It's staked. Nothing looks out of the ordinary other than the bolt itself, which, you know, most bolts I've ever received have been pretty smooth, a somewhat shiny finish. This bolt almost looks like it's been bead blasted. You know, as long as it doesn't affect performance, I guess I'm not totally concerned, other than ease of cleaning the bolt. I did notice that there was a rather large gap between one out of the three piston rings here, which, you know, I'm sure won't affect performance much, but that is something that I noticed. As for the lower, it came with the enhanced polished trigger group, which is a night and day difference over their standard trigger group. It's definitely a lot more smooth and crisp trigger group. There is a little bit of creep, but not much. But by the fact that it comes with this enhanced polished trigger group at $220 shipped with the SBA3 adjustable brace, it's actually amazing that they can even do this. Now at the ship price of $220 on the lower, it did not come with a PMag, which I'm fine with that. I actually prefer 20 round mags rather than 30 round mags when I'm shooting from a bench. The lower did come with the Magpul MOE grip, which has a storage compartment, which is actually really nice, especially for the adjustment tool for the front sight. As for the brace, the SBA3, I think it's hard to refute that this is hands down the best pistol brace that money can buy right now. The fact that it's adjustable is amazing. This brace retail is usually about $120. You can get it on sale roughly about $100. The fact that the entire lower came with the brace shipped for $220 is mind-blowing. So enough of the BS. Let's take this out to the range. Get this red dot sighted in and see how she shoots. Now this is pretty hard to do with the camera, especially an iPhone, but in order to get this AR pistol zeroed in, we're simply going to center the 4-inch black dot in the middle of our rifle bore, and then adjust the red dot so it's in the center of the 4-inch circle at 50 yards. It really is simple as that. One, two, save yourself some ammo and take my advice. So it looks like I just need to adjust this down just a smidgen. Brass looks good. Let's take 2 more shots. Let's see how we did. Not bad. Looks like one of the bullets went in the other holes, and one's dead center. Let's run a 6x5 at 50 yards. Well, I'm not sure why my phone stopped recording about halfway through the shots. And I'm pretty sure it has to do with the fact that it's over 90 degrees here, hot and humid, and the sun's baking on my phone. But anyways, for first shots down the tube at 50 yards, I'd say the best group is pushing, I don't know, it's about 0.6 inches at 50 yards. Worst group is roughly about 1.5 inches at 50 yards. I can definitely tell the barrel needs some time to break in, but I think initially this is pretty promising. So we'll get this scored when we get back to the reloading room. Before we do that, I'm going to quick run a bigger target down at 100 yards and shoot a 5-shot group and see how it turns out. So as expected, at 50 yard zero, the point of impact at 100 yards is a little bit higher than the middle of the bullseye, which is expected. And I'd say this is pushing about a 2-inch group at 100 yards, which, for a 10.5-inch pistol, that's pretty darn impressive. Let's try running another one at 100 yards and see what we come up with. Not too darn shabby. That is pretty good, especially for a 10.5-inch barrel, non-magnified, 1x red dot at 100 yards. 3 bullets pretty much touching there. 2 of the bullets open that group up to about, I don't know, I'm saying about 1.25 inches, but we'll know a little bit better once we get back to the reloading room. So 50 total rounds were shot, and I had absolutely 0 failures to feed and 0 failures to eject. As for the shape of the brass, it looks really good. You know, I got a piece of Velcro on my brass deflectors. There's no dents in the side of the case body. The case mouth openings are perfectly round and no cratering of the primers at all. Brass looks spectacular for reloading. So far, I'm very impressed. Well, I definitely didn't need to worry about anyone showing up at the range today. It is stupid hot out and muggy. So let's decap 4 pieces of miscellaneous fired brass to see what the fired headspace is. Now with my headspace gauge, not your headspace gauge, ammo that is fired out of my other ARs that have an 18-inch plus barrel, more times than not is ejected at 1.456. And I usually bump that brass from ejected. Fire formed 0.003, so if it's ejected at 1.456 on my other ARs that are not pistols, I usually bump that brass back down to 1.453. Now, the fireform brass that came out of the PSA pistol .452, .452, .452, and .452. So what does this mean? Well, it leads me to believe that the chamber in this PSA 5.56 upper has an ultra tight chamber. The fact that it's fire forming less than the ammo that I reloaded here tells me that when I reload ammunition for this specific AR pistol by itself, I'm going to have to most likely bump the brass down to roughly the 1.450 range. Now, can that have an effect on all of this? Most definitely, especially when you're trying to feed ammunition that has 0 headspace tolerance and could possibly pinch down on the bullet, creating different velocities. Now, usually when you fire ammunition out of your rifle, obviously it'll expand and custom size to the chamber of that rifle, and will usually spring back a little bit, about 1/1000th of an inch from true fire form. So my best guess is the chamber for headspace on this PSA pistol is exactly at 1.453. That's also the reason why I was able to shoot all 50 rounds without having any issues. So what I did, especially for this video, is I took my headspace gauge, the shields, and I verified some of their factory ammunition. I double checked 2 boxes of 223 factory ammo, and the headspace on that was pretty much consistent at 1.453, or exactly what my reloaded ammunition is at. I also double checked 2 boxes of 5.56 NATO factory ammunition, and The headspace ranged from roughly 1.451 to 1.453. So with that being said, especially with factory ammunition, I think it's safe to say that this PSA pistol has a very ultra-tight chamber on it. Also, this reloaded ammunition is using 60 grain VMAX, which, you know, for a 1-in-7 twist barrel and a 10.5-inch pistol upper, you know, that's probably at the very low spectrum of what you should be shooting out of a 1-in-7 twist barrel. And I think that's why on my next set of reloads, I'm going to try shooting a 68 grain and 75 grain boat tail hollow points. So for its first initial outing of shooting 60 grain VMAX on non-developed ammunition, and for using a non-magnified 1x red dot scope, I'd say this is pretty acceptable, and I see nothing but improvements in the future. So some of you might be asking why a 50-yard zero. Now, in my opinion, with a PSA pistol like this, especially with a 1x red dot that's not magnified, in my opinion, the effective range is going to be roughly up to about 200 yards. I mean, yes, you could shoot up to 600 yards easily with this pistol, but in my application, I don't see myself shooting over 200 yards. So hopefully with future load development, I can use a 75 grain heavy boat tail hollow point match bullet. And what I did is I selected a generic factory 175 grain match load here, and you can see it zeroes out at 50 and peaks at roughly 125 yards at 1.45 inches and re-zeroes back out at 200. So by doing so, I don't have to readjust my elevation at all, shooting from 0 to 200 yards. So with that said, stay tuned to part 2 and we'll get some load development rounds down this PSA pistol. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you next time.